Welcome to Bite Size Dental Marketing. Today I have Eric Vickery, President of Coaching at All Star Dental Academy. Eric, it's been a minute. Ian and I, Ian has certainly, stepped into the co-host role since we've talked, and he and I have been tag teaming this, but I still need to thank you. You and Alex were the inspiration for this little endeavor. You had us on, and for us, launching a podcast was this incredibly high bar that we just thought, oh my God, we don't even have time.
Yeah.
And y'all just made it so approachable and easy. And I'm so grateful. Every day we come in to record a guest, and we're well over 100 episodes now. I, honest to God,
Amazing.
say a little thank you to you and Alex for just the inspiration, man. Before we even jump
Yeah.
into the topic of the day, you guys have been a big influence on our company and, out
Love it.
there solving the dental problems of the world.
Yeah. One podcast at a time. Well, you guys have done it very well and it looks very smooth. You guys have done it very nicely. I might add, it's a joy. I follow you guys. I love listening to the podcast when I'm driving to the airport, and especially I like the social media, the snippets and the social media stuff that you guys do. I think that's always great. So thank you for having me back on, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, let's jump in. It's been, gosh, I don't know, 8-10 months, maybe
Mm,
a minute. We just entered Q4 of 2024.
yeah.
I know you're working with practices across the board. What are you seeing out there today?
Yeah. We're probably working within the neighborhood about 100 clients. It fluctuates up and down.
Mhm.
But it could be in that range with live virtual coaching consistently. And I got to say, every single day, there's one thing I always run into, which is team. Whether it's I'm missing a team member, I'm trying to hire a team member, I lost a team member. Today it was had to let a team member go after hiring them for 2 weeks, and I had a team member walk out because of that, because it was a friend of a friend type situation that they hired. And you know, for me, in my role, in my world, how I view it, everybody has their looking glass, but my world says that's a leadership issue just as much as it is an employee issue. And oftentimes we try to look for the blame to say, well, what's with the workforce? Where's the workforce? Where's the workforce? And what I would say is, yes, and where's the leadership? And I think more than ever, what our dentists, our clients are running into is, man, my leadership is being tested. And I haven't really focused on how to be a great leader. I've been focusing on how to be a great clinician. I've even been focusing on my business and my numbers somewhat. But I think there's another hat. There's the artist, there's the entrepreneur, and there's the leader. Those are the three hats that we're wearing as business owners. This is your artistry, the things that you love to do in web design and all of that. But you have the business, the entrepreneur, and then you got to run the team. You got to be a leader. And my proposal here, my hypothesis, is your team and the results of your team are a direct reflection of the level of leadership that you're bringing to it. And the more research I do on it, the more research I do on it, the more I recognize the more the leader grows, the more space he or she creates for the team to grow within that. You're not going to have people working for you who have surpassed your leadership capacity. It's impossible. It's impossible. Just like you're not going to have patients allow you to do dentistry you haven't trained yourself clinically to do. It's impossible. You're not going to do those types of cases until you do the CE required to do so. And so you're by working on your leadership skills, you're working on creating space for your team to grow, and that's what grows your business. Your team grows your business. Does that make sense?
That, for me, Eric, what I want to ask you, and something I often hear with the dentists that we work with is, I'm trying to get to all of these things for you. I want to be better. And in our case, with taking pictures and doing the marketing things that you want us to do, I know for you, you're talking about leadership here. Eric, I'm trying to run a dental practice here. I went to school for 8, 9, 10 years, if not more, if you're a specialist. Where must I start? It's hard enough as is to just be a dentist and wear the hat you said. How can I be a better leader and start doing the things that you're talking about?
So I use Elon Musk as the example all the time. I think he's a Texan now. So we can use him as an example. When early on, if we know the story, if we believe the stories, after he sold PayPal, he was in his Tesla warehouse. Well, he fought for that name 24/7. He didn't leave. He slept there. He didn't leave. He was on the assembly line. He was in the building, the startup part of that process. I guarantee you right now, you're not going to find Elon Musk working on the assembly line, putting cars together. He's out doing interviews. I just watched an interview with him, Bill Maher. I just watched a snippet of that. He was on there. So he's out there promoting, and he's doing that to promote his business. So he's wearing the entrepreneurial hat a lot right now. He's out doing that. I mean, he had a big week, robots and landing jets.
That's all.
So, and a driverless taxi. I mean, he's launching stuff all the time. He's creative, but he's got a team to do that. In dentistry, we don't have that option. Our business owner is on the assembly line 32 patient hours a week. You have to carve out entrepreneurial and leadership time within that. It's a 40-hour work week. So that means there's 8 hours a week where you're looking at it like, oh, that's where I just do CE. No, that's going back into artistry. That's going back into your clinical mode. You can do some of that. And I don't need 8 hours every week, but I'm going to need 8 hours in a week, a month, to focus on your team leadership and your entrepreneurial. Like, it baffles me that a business owner would not know what their KPIs are, what their numbers are, and what they mean, and what levers to push and pull because of that. No, if I just focus on being a great artist, all of that will take care of itself. And I think that's a rough way to be ignorant, unfortunately. And I'm probably being a little too harsh, but my name is Eric and I'm your friend. And I just want to emphasize that there is time. There is time to do this, but we got to carve out that time and make it. Just like Ian, this is a great example. Just like I don't have time to do team training. I hear this all the time. We don't have time to do team training. Well, when are your team meetings? Oh, we don't have team meetings. How do you run a business successfully without 4 hours a month of team meeting time? Am I making sense? Am I preaching the choir maybe? I don't know.
One question that I have, what is leadership in dentistry? I mean, I would have trouble articulating what leadership is to me, right? I mean, I know the classic definition, but when you think of a dentist who does want to prioritize their time on production, it is a challenging workforce right now. They're generally hiring retreads of other offices that have some ingrained knowledge. What does leadership mean to you, Eric?
So by definition, leadership is influence, your ability to influence. And the first thing we say all the time is, do you influence you first? In other words, would you follow you first? Your first follower is always you. And if you're not following you, nobody else is following you, right? A great sign of a leader are those who want to be influenced by that person. When you look at those people and go, wow, that's an amazing team. I promise you'll find a great leader. So
if
for
I'm
me,
not on time for the
go ahead.
meeting, if I'm not on time for the meeting, how can I expect my team to be on time? If I'm not putting in that work, how can I expect? And so it starts with you.
That's right. You're a reflection of that. Again, if you don't like the results you're getting, look in the mirror. It's something you're teaching people how to treat you under your umbrella of care. I had a doctor tell me, my team members are not paying attention during your meetings, Eric. And I'm looking at Zoom and I look on the meeting, the doctor's scrolling on her phone. I'm like, well, of course they're not paying attention during the meeting. Neither are you. Or not even in the meeting. Oh no, that's for my team. That's for my team. We can't expect the game to go well when we're not practicing in preparation for the game. So Gallup would say the leader is a coach. We use an analogy. If you were to Google leadership and you search images, you guys would probably do this really well. You're going to get an image. There's this before and after imagery. And it's this person, sitting on a throne, almost like Egyptian style artistry, they're sitting on a throne while these people are mushing and pulling the throne type thing. You've probably seen this before. And then it says, but leadership, and they're out in front and they're pushing and the team is behind them pushing, right? You've probably seen this before. And I would say, actually, that leadership model is the burnout model. That's the doctor saying, just watch me work really hard. Can everybody just show up early and just work really hard and get it done?
2024 clickbait. That's not real leadership. Yeah.
Now, our third imagery that we use in our leadership retreat every year, we put this on the screen. It's a evolution from the chair to the front to the back of the line, cheering the team on, coaching them and pushing a bit, but saying, hey, I like your form there. I like what you did there, and appreciation. There's someone who encourages in the right direction. So excellent execution comes from clear expectations being communicated. So if I'm not clear on what my expectations are, how can I expect the right functions to occur? So it's a communicator. It's someone who leads by example. It's someone who appreciates and cheers on the team. And then we use the acronym Leaders Are Heroes, which I can get into if we have time. But that to me is leadership. And yes, you want to work hard. You definitely want to work hard on your patients. You want to lead by example and how you communicate. But you've got to carve out time to mold your team. Otherwise, the path of least resistance, where they test the boundaries, organically occurs. A calf being born in captivity on a ranch, the first thing it's probably going to do is test the boundary of the fence line. How far can I go? Just like a kid's going to always test the boundary. Your team is always going to test the boundary. Can I show up late? I call them the Mondays. Can I, depending on the age of the person, can I party Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then call in sick on Monday? Had a doctor yesterday tell me 3 Mondays in a row this team member's called out sick. I asked the age. He was willing to tell me under 30. So I know I can't pull that off anymore, but I promise you, there's something going on in a testing of the boundary that is now going to challenge the leader to say, can I have a one-on-one conversation with this person to influence them in the right direction? That is not a boss. That is not someone yelling a bullhorn. That is not someone demanding that you follow their rules. That's not going to, a dictator is not going to work either. That's the person sitting on the throne. And you just going, putting your head down and burying it in the sand and going, I'm just going to work hard and they're going to follow me or they're not, is also not going to work. You've got to be the vocal leader.
We hear that a lot, that it's almost that dentists are scared to hold their team accountable today because they feel that holding people accountable is the cause of staffing issues. I think it's a paradoxical situation where holding people accountable actually keeps your key staff, and I think they have it wrong. But that's the reason we hear office scared to hold their teams accountable.
Couldn't agree more. Well, they're afraid because there's nothing else out there. Where's the workforce? So
right.
Is it okay if I read something on the podcast if it doesn't sound like I read it? This is one of my social media posts.
I would love it for you to read it.
I said this to my kids. I said this to my kids, and then I posted it. I posted a couple times on social media before. It's about accountability. So as soon as you said that, I was like, "You're right on, Eric. You're absolutely right on." So accountability is not meant to punish you. Being held to a high standard is not meant to criticize you. Sitting down with someone who's willing to pour into you and help you mature in your craft isn't something to take personal or even as though it's a negative thing. Be grateful that you have leadership in your life that cares enough to pour into you, to challenge you. Now, look for opportunities to grow, not for ways to hide. And I think sometimes we get the people who clock in and clock out. It's just a job. Everybody is a leader. The newest hire is a leader. Why? They're leading patients to health. They have opportunity to speak into patients. How they communicate to patients can be a reflection of how that leader is speaking into them as well, how their coach or their trainer is directing them. You're a leader when you're with your family. Ian, when you're with your wife, you're a leader there. When you're with your kids, Eric, you're a leader there. When you're at work, you're a leader. There's no place where we can go where we don't have influence. We have the opportunity. And if we're in the right place of our mind and our life, our influence should carry weight. How does that happen? Credibility. My credibility carries something that would say, hey, I'd love to have you on the podcast to talk about something. All right, great. There's credibility there that would say, no matter what we talk about, it's going to be credible. It's built on experience, it's tested the times, and it's something that could work. Usually what people say is, how do you make leadership tangible? How do I do that better? And I think, Ian, that's kind of what you're getting to, is like, where do I have time to be a leader? How do I do that? And for me, that influence only comes through effective communication. I didn't say communication, but effective communication. And how do I do that? Ian's my team member, and I sit down with Ian once a month for 15 minutes. And some people call it check-ins, the 1-minute managers out there. Robin, our hiring director, calls it a stay interview instead of an exit interview. I call them just one-on-ones, 15-minute accountability one-on-ones. And I take the lumps first, and I just do 3 things. I say, Ian, for us to be the best team possible, I need to be the best leader for you possible. And I want to support you in your growth to the best version of you that you can be on this team. So that's my introduction. Second, so I didn't sit down and say, Ian, I need to really talk to you about something. Come into the office, the principal's office.
You gave me the meat, not all the whole sandwich. I actually listened to the Mel Robbins podcast, and she had someone on that said exactly that. Prepare the team member you're talking to. Don't say, we're going to today, no. Hi, you're not going to love what I'm going to say now, but I'm going to say this because I care about you, and I have a team I need to look after. So I love that you're saying. I love that.
And what I call it is, I got it from 7 Habits. Begin with the end in mind. When we're done with this conversation, we're going to be better off. That's all I'm saying. Now, you can fluff it up and do all the things you want to make it sound fancy, but that's the first part. And then I take lumps first, Ian. Then I say, Ian, how can I be better? What do I need to do to be better for you to grow? What do you need from me? That's the first thing we do. Now, most people are a little nervous here because they go, well, shoot, you could fire me if I say the wrong things. So I've got to create an environment where you have permission to communicate freely to me because there's things I need to hear. How can I get better if people aren't willing to give me feedback? That's just sitting on the throne up there, people throwing flowers up. So first I take the lumps, and then that's called emotional deposits. I'm making emotional deposits in your life. And if I'm willing to be coached, how much now more likely are you to be willing to be coached? And then third part is then I make some emotional withdrawals. Now I might do the 3-to-1 praise versus coach thing where I appreciate, and then coach. I could do that. But ultimately, I'm going to use how questions. They're accountability questions. And I say, how can I support you in your relationship with Eric Hubbard to make sure things are good there? And notice it's a how question, not a, are you good with Eric? I didn't say that. That makes sense what we're doing there?
Yeah.
A thing called the unstuck box that has been around for a minute, but when I started the company, I had them, and they helped me form those questions when I had the one-on-ones, because I think asking for feedback is a difficult. Giving and asking for feedback has always been challenging for me. I mean, I am somewhere buried as a huge people pleaser. I've shied away from hard conversations. I've not sought feedback after I knew something went bad. I mean, all the things, but it's called the unstuck box. And there's a box about one-on-ones, and it's a card deck.
Oh yeah. I know you're talking
draw
about
it at random.
Yeah.
And it's not the answer, but it is sort of, it helps you ideate on how to ask some of these questions and get good and start facilitating better communication.
You just helped me because this is going to be our gift at our leadership retreat this January. I just realized that's what we're going to do. I love it.
We have a ton of the boxes. There's a team building one, there's a leadership, there's one-on-one, there's performance evaluation. So
yes, the one-on-ones
there's a lot
I
out
love.
there, but I like them because they bring inspiration to what is some amount of anxiety conversation.
Yeah. Well, I think people think those one-on-ones are few and far between, and they're only when something's wrong or someone's getting a raise. I'm going into the doctor's office. I must be getting a raise. Or, I got called to the doctor's office. I must be getting fired or written up or something. But if you have a regular rhythm to these one-on-ones, whether that's monthly for 15 minutes, you're being a leader, there's no expectation of, oh, this must be my review. Gallup talks a lot about the annual review is dead. What am I going to tell Ian about something that happened back in January? Hey, Ian, in January, you were talking to Mrs. Jones, and I wanted to give you some feedback on that. What?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? He's had 4,000 conversations since then that gone the same exact way, but I'm picking on something, that far. So dentists are absentee owners. It's weird because by definition, that means you're just somebody who gives money and disappears. No, they're absentee owners because their face is down on the assembly line. You have to unplug from that and plug into your team. You have to have one-on-ones, you have to have morning huddles, you have to have team meetings. These are things that create that leadership. And I think sometimes the personality of the business owner, the dentist, runs into roadblocks there. And they're like, okay, that might be the right thing to do, but I don't know if I'm willing to do that. And my promise would be is if you have a coach or a mentor or someone on your team who can encourage you to get into that mode, that cycle of doing that regularly, you'll start to realize all you were missing was the rhythm of it and the repetition to do it. And delegating it to, quote, an office manager is not the answer, by the way. We talked about titles, Eric.
Yeah, good Lord. No, I mean, no office manager has the authority that the dentist doesn't. Everyone knows they're not the one deciding them. They who control the money to make decisions.
That's just a go-between, right? Yeah. Is that what you were going to say, Ian?
So I wanted to ask you on all the themes that we've touched now, making more time. Everybody's a leader in the office, and now actually the delegating is something that directly touches to this. One thing that I've spoken about, Eric, I know there's a version that you've also spoken about. I call it the buckets of responsibility. Eric, I know you had said there's a different version of that you call it too, but for the sake of this exercise, let's stick with what I've said. So the buckets of responsibility is essentially that within each person being a leader, they have roles within the office that will eventually free up the time of the dentist in order to then focus on these things that you're saying. So what's your thoughts there on delegating what the dentist can in order to free up his or her time to be better at being the leader
That's right.
on the macro trends and where the office goes, and how can we operationalize that in an office to be comfortable with delegating tasks and giving off responsibility so that I'm
Yeah.
better off at the end.
Well said. I would say not as good as that. I mean, we say that the dentist has to do what the dentist is legally obligated to do, nothing more. And yet you'll find dentists designing a crown in the hallway on their I don't want to name a brand, but on a machine that, it's like, well, now you're a $500 an hour lab tech. What's happening here when you have an assistant who can do that for you? And that's just a simple example. But I don't think you can delegate ultimate leadership, the ultimate accountability part. So can you have an integrator? The book Rocket Fuel or Traction is a great example of this. Yes, you can have an integrator that delivers the vision for you while your head is down on the assembly line. Absolutely. And they can encourage, they can do that the right way. We have a great coach, Shelley, you guys know, who teaches this very well, EOS model. And we completely adhere to that. I just think that a title gets you in the room, but it doesn't get you followers.
More bad comes from titles than good.
That's right. It is a foundational piece, but it's an entry-level piece. And I think the problem that we run into is, this is just a belief that I have, is team members want to be crowned or acknowledged with a title. And they can tell their friends, oh, I'm Dr. Smith's office manager. Instead of saying, oh, I'm a receptionist, and okay, I'm a financial coordinator, I'm an administrator, I'm a business administrator. Like, we can call it whatever we want. At the end of the day, someone wants to be able to say what they do because I want to be proud of what they do. I get that. So get creative with that and understand that a title is something. It is something, but it is not the end all. It is the entry point. It is level 1 of leadership by John Maxwell. It is 5 levels of leadership. Your title is level 1, but you still got to earn permission to lead people. You still got to be productive for them to want to follow you. And you still got to people develop and grow them in training. That's the only way you get to the pinnacle, level 5 of legacy. Most of us aren't going there, but the 4 levels that we focus on are, all right, how are you working on relationship building? Back to the one-on-one, back to people development, training, back to being in an effective environment. Nobody wants to run into burnout these days. They don't want to run into burnout. If you're just head down going for it, that's what's going to happen. You're getting fired up.
If I look out, I'm going to test a theory, Eric, and see. I'm looking for dissent, not agreement here. If I look at the happiest dentist, and I'm going to get into correlation and causation perhaps, but I get it. If I look at the happiest dentist, if I look at the most successful practices, there is some correlation in that they have had a team of leadership people around them. They have a fractional CFO. They have a coach. They have someone who comes in now and again and coaches hygiene, like Rachel, Rachel Wall or someone like that. Yeah. They have someone like yourself on the leadership coaching and the practice coaching. And, they have obviously a marketing team like us too, but they have developed a team of people that they trust. And my question is, is that a correlation of they're successful so they can afford those things? Or is that something that they've grown into, developed, and then became successful? Or
the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
Is this a chicken or the egg? But I go back and forth. Because part of one of the reasons we get hired is they have reached a level of financial success that it is no longer viable for them to spend time on marketing. So part of our value add is just taking marketing off their plate. Just don't
delegate it to you.
Right.
Sure.
So what, are we a chicken or are we an egg?
Okay. So I don't remember who said this quote. I think it's John Maxwell. He said, are there just natural born leaders, or do leaders have to be developed? And he said, well, I've never met a leader who wasn't born naturally, something like that. There's never been a leader who came in the world another way. We've all been born into it. I think that some people are probably more hardwired for it to begin with, but I also think that it can be developed because it's not that hard to lead a small business team. I don't, there is the law of the lid. As you're talking, I'm thinking, okay, law of the lid. Some people have very, very, very low lid. It's this invisible ceiling that you can't break through. So they always tell the story about the original McDonald's. They got to like 3 or 7 or something McDonald's. And then this next guy, Michael Keating, played the role in the movie, and then he blew it up. Well, the law of the lid was like, you'll never be able to franchise this beyond the 7 we got. And here you go. And some of that is just about belief. Oh, I'm not a leader. And you have to first believe that you can be a leader. I think that's where it's born. Do you first believe that you can be a leader? And I'll say all the time, I've never failed my entire life. Now, I didn't know this until recently, but I've never failed my entire life. And people will laugh when I say that, and haha, sure. And then I'll say, and you've never failed your entire life either. You've never failed. Just because things don't go the way you want them to, or as you expected them to, or the goal, just means it was practice. And so the same thing happens with leadership is you are practicing in the moment to be the best leader you can be, and you're not going to nail it every single time. So don't let that hold you back into never stepping into it. Let that be permission for you to step and fall, step and fall, step and fall. And that's okay too, because your team isn't perfect either. They're going to make mistakes. And what better way to lead from to show, you know what, I can fall down and pick myself up and acknowledge it and be okay in mistake. I can be okay in failure and still learn from it and grow. That to me is how you can say, am I becoming a leader? Was I born to be a leader? Well, let's start with the mental side of it first. Yeah.
You mentioned a quote. There was some quote. I'm going to get it wrong, and I'm going to definitely attribute it wrong. But
The
it
summary.
was said in summary. Thank you. Yeah, it was basically said there is someone out there with half of your skill and twice your confidence living the life you wish you could. And it's just such.
It's so true.
It's so
It
true.
hurts.
It hurts.
It hurts.
Yeah, someone's out there with half your skill and twice your confidence, and they're living the life
Yeah.
you wish you could. Yeah,
I think I've
And
seen
it's
this
true.
person on TikTok. I think
Yeah.
I don't have TikTok, so
good for you. Good for you. Congratulations. That's a smart move. I completely agree. So I think confidence is foundational in everything. So you know this. We talk about self-talk and being confident, not arrogant, not with not having ego. No narcissism is allowed here. None of that. But there's also no lacking in self-belief allowed either. We're right in the middle of that. So Dr. Joseph Murray's book, The Power of Subconscious Mind, he talks about being a 10. And he says that's the numeric value. He creates it and says your hand is on the dial to turn that up or down. Let's get the dial to a 10 and believe that. And are you going to fail? Yeah, because I'm imperfect. But if we're all imperfect, then we're all getting graded on a curve here. We might as well put the grade at a 10. And I just simply have to choose daily in whatever I'm doing, leadership, dentistry, all of it, to be a 10 in that, confident. Imagine I came into this podcast and went, yeah, so maybe can we talk about leadership maybe? How you come off, how you present is going to be foundational in your ability to lead. And people will be drawn to that or they'll be annoyed by it. And you got to be really careful because they're annoyed by 11s. They're not drawn to 9s. They're attracted to 10s. Look, if you're I said this earlier, if you're a 7, if you have belief of a 7, you're not getting 10s on your team.
No, you're going to pull 5s and 6s.
That's exactly right. Yep.
I do, Eric, want to ask you, within the setting of the labor force and it being difficult right now to find the right people, I hear this all the time. The hiring process is so difficult. I mean, you've brought it up today again.
Yeah.
I want to be a 10. I want to be a leader. Eric, but my current staff, I'm struggling. I've asked this and this person and that person again and again. I need this from you. Please, I need support here. I've had the reviews with them. I've had the one-on-ones. This person's not changing, but I'm scared because who else is out there and for how long will I sit? What are you going to say to that dentist?
Leopard spots. We'll have these one-on-ones. I call them come to Jesus meetings when they get to that level with employee team member Ian here. And I'll tell my doctor, I'll say, Dr. Hubbard, Ian's going to go about 6 to 9 months and you're going to have one-on-ones. You're going to create accountability with him. In about 6 to 9 months, something's going to happen in his life outside of work, whatever. And those leopard spots are going to come back and they're going to return. And so while we're coaching here, while I'm people developing here as a leader, I'm also always be hiring over here.
Okay.
It just is what it is. I know that sounds harsh, but it is what it is. Because here's the deal. Ian, the team member, he's loyal to pain-free dental marketing. He's loyal to pain-free dental marketing until he is not. And we all know this. And we all know this. We're loyal. Your team members are loyal until they're not. So what you're going to do is you're always going to approach them as though they're loyal to you while you're over here looking to grow your team always. That's why we have Robin Reese, a hiring director at All-Star, because hiring is such a pain in the butt all the time. Indeed's changing all the rules all the time. They got it. They'll get you candidates and put them in front of you and you can make the final say. But at the end of the day, hiring Robin's going to hate me for this. Hiring is guessing, firing is knowing. And that's
Mm.
harsh in a business sense, because I'm trying to create family on my team. I'm trying to bond with my team. I'm trying to develop a relationship with them. And when I do have to let them go, they're never surprised. They saw it coming. They recognized that it wasn't a good fit, and it was not personal.
You know, you just hit on something that I have to be careful. I'll get feisty about. You said family. And
Yeah.
I agree with you. For years and years and years, Eric, we wanted family. And I will tell you, after doing it for a while and seeing some of the best teammates sort of have moments to where they became not the best and at some point actually became detractors. Andre and I, and this from the Netflix book, we began to purposefully change the language that while I want some familial values, we are a sports team. And we are a close sports team and we're a friendly sports team, but we are obligated to field a competitive team.
Yeah, team members.
And that freed us from this family talk and this, because there is something in this loyalty. There is no realm that I can fire my kids, right? I mean, it's just not there. And yeah, I can divorce my wife, but it's going to be, an incredibly complex and expensive scenario. I'm going to argue I can't divorce my wife. I can't fire any teammate though. Let's just be real.
Yeah.
And
it's good. I like that.
Changing that has really allowed us to move past some of this, debt that it carries of trying to call yourself a family. Because you're not.
There, at the end of the day, it's awkwardness. It's family values. It's not creating a family, right? It's core, which is core values, which is
we want trust and respect and that stuff. But you're taking home 30% of what you produce. They're taking home X dollars an hour. By definition, you are not a family.
Yeah, not equal.
Yeah,
we're not equal family members.
Yeah,
no. Yeah. I think the coach and team member analogy is perfect. We use it all the time. We just organically we say you're not a staff, you're not an infection, you're a team. Together, everyone achieves more. This is the concept that doctors have to take on. Is I am the coach. The problem is the coach is on the sideline calling the plays when really the dentist is the quarterback on the field. And who's calling the plays? Oh, I am too. Oh, and who's choosing the team members? Oh, I am too. I'm also the general manager. Oh, who's the owner of the team? Oh, I am too. And so you have many hats that you have to wear. And go back to Ian's point is now I got to carve out the time to put those hats on and allot them and organizational structure to it and empower team members to take on those things that I'm not legally obligated to do and have one-on-one check-ins with those things, whether it's ordering, lab relationship, marketing meetings, frown design, all of it. Financial rate. I'm not answering the phone as a dentist, right? I'm not legally obligated to do that. So make sure you are creating time in your schedule to be on purpose. You got to not just work in your business. You've heard this all the time. You got to work on your business too. There's got to be a healthy ratio there. Yeah.
Eric, buddy, so well said. That it's
fun stuff.
Good stuff, man. This time, I think last time we kind of had some disagreement. I forgot what they were about, but look at us all aligned this time.
We're probably disagreeing on, how many new patients or how many new patients you should see or something. I don't know.
I don't remember.
I don't know what it was.
I just like being in line. I just like people. I just like pleasing people.
All right,
Eric Vickery, president of coaching, All-Star Dental Academy. We'll link how to get in touch with Alex and Eric and the team there. And Eric, man, thank you so much for jumping on and sharing with us.
Love it. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you having me on. This has been fun. Thanks, Ian. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you so much, Eric. It was great having you. Thank you.